So we are here at the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference, and we can go nowhere strange without coming across our brother from another mother, Brother Geoffrey Grider, and now the end begins. We just took a picture with the, what was that, like a super Bigfoot? That was massive.
Super giant Bigfoot.
Super giant Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah.
And so we want to take just a few minutes. We're not far from here. First of all, if you're in the area, anywhere near Palatka, you need to get to the Now the End Begins bookstore. Tell us real quick how the bookstore is doing.
Bookstore is doing really, really good. We just passed 500 items that we have for sale,
wow.
And over 300 books, and adding new stuff all the time, and getting a whole new client base than we did from when we were in St. Augustine.
Okay.
We enjoyed our time there, but this is definitely where the Lord has for us.
This is the impact right here.
Yep.
Tell us what's been on the tower. What's Now the End Begins. Of course, I'm aware. I'm watching.
Right.
A lot of the regular listeners. But what's the trajectory right now of Now the End Begins? What are we hitting on? What's the trajectory next couple months?
Well, we're kind of forced into talking about a topic that's very uncomfortable for a lot of Christians who voted for Donald Trump. The thing seems to be imploding. We're certainly rooting for his success in this tariff scheme that I'm calling it now, because that's what it is. I hope it works, but it doesn't look like it's going to work.
Yeah.
And the Democrats, I was talking about this on our podcast yesterday. When Trump got elected, the Democrats were defeated. The air was 100% out of their balloon, right? They didn't know what to do. Now they do.
Yeah.
Now they are re-marshaled, they're re-energized, and in 1,000 cities across America, while we're sitting here at Bigfoot, they are protesting Trump and Elon Musk in 1,000 American cities across the country right now.
Yeah. It's really odd watching what's going on.
Yeah.
We're here at the Bigfoot Conference, and it's interesting. We were having this conversation off camera. I don't believe personally that this is a real biological, we just never found it, animal that's running through the woods.
Right.
But I do think it is something, if whatever is not explainable. There does seem to be something when you go back to the Indian writings, across this paranormal, spiritual, I would call it even demonic activity going on. It's interesting that you have so many people out here that are looking and believing in something.
They want it
more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we're in the time of biblical revival, but it seems like there's a revival in the spirit or the longing. Do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah,
can you speak to that? What do you think?
No, there is definitely, I was talking about this in our Sunday service last week in Romans chapter 8, and it talks about the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together to be released. And I think we're getting so close to the time of the rapture, we're getting so close to the start of Jacob's trouble, that even the creation has something to say about it. And like all these people here, there's got to be 1,000 people here easily, right? They want something. They want to know that there is whatever that next step past what we know to be true. They want to know what that is. The whole world wants to know what that is.
They're looking for something, and this is an industry that is profoundly answering that something. Obviously answering it incorrect, incomplete. One of the things though that's interesting to me is they want to know that there's something out there, but they want it on their terms. They don't want any judgment. You know what I'm saying?
I was telling you earlier when we first got here that we prepared for this conference by watching Harry and the Hendersons.
Yes.
1987 movie, which I don't know what it won the Academy Award for, but it's an Oscar-winning film. But here's the question that I have. If they found Bigfoot, what would they do? What would the reaction be? Not just to see him somewhere, but if tomorrow Bigfoot is just found in some field in Florida somewhere, well, what happens next?
Right. I think it's also interesting too, because you're seeing this happen. You're seeing this happen all the time. So, like we just saw, the word turns upside down with pyramid. We were told forever there was a bunch of elephants, guys in togas would, right?
Yep.
Now they're going, oh, no, there's something really there. And they're like, yeah, that's cool, on to the next.
Right.
So it almost lends me to think that, I mean, look, you and I can find rapture in any event, right? But it almost lends me to believe that the only thing that could capture the world's attention is a catastrophic global catching away. What do you think?
Well, that's where we are, and we've been talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, Ruckman talked about it for 64 years. He was convinced he was going to be, but so very close.
Yes.
So very close.
Yes.
And I literally think it's right around the corner. And the Lord got my attention in the early days of 2020. We started our countdown. Today is day 1,843 of 15 days to flatten the curve, right? But God got my attention with these world events, and I'm grateful for that because I'm awake, I'm looking, and I think it's soon and very soon.
Yes, I think so too. So, we had, you don't necessarily feel like there has to be anything like a third world war, anything like that.
There doesn't have to be, but there's going to be. Because God does things in threes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, why were the Jews regathered in 1948? Okay, and this is something that the Lord gave me that I have never heard a lot of people talking about. But years ago, the Lord just put in my mind, why do you think the Jews were brought back? Because everybody says that they're regathered, they're never going to be pushed back out. If the Jews weren't brought back after the end of World War II, then the prophecy showing them being scattered couldn't be fulfilled.
Right.
So World War I prepared the land, Palestine, to become Israel.
Right.
World War II, very roughly and sadly, prepared the Jewish people to go back to that land. World War III is going to boot them back out so the remnant can go to Sela Petra.
Right. That's going to change that's going to change it.
Yeah.
And we're setting up with, tariffs are always a good way to get yourself into a global war.
And I believe, and it's an unpopular stand to take, but I've been taking it, I believe that Trump is going to be one of the main driving factors behind the coming war.
I think so too. I really do. I really think so too. So it's going to be real fascinating. So now you've never been to a Bigfoot conference like this before, have
No,
you?
never.
They take it serious, man. This is no joke.
Yeah.
But it's surprising to me how many people are dimensional about it. When you start talking to them, they're like, yeah, this is some kind of dimensional being. It's some kind of dimensional something like that. So,
like he comes and goes through a portal type of thing?
Yeah.
Wow.
And or that there's something, they would say dimensional, we would say spiritual, that alters the brain patterns, the windows of perception, the ability to be able to see it clearly. The Mormons have a heritage thing where they think it's like the spirit of Cain. It's a weird thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot.
There's a lot going on here.
You thought now the end begin was on the edge.
Well, maybe we need to get a little closer.
We need to get, yeah, absolutely. How's the Bible program going at Now the End Begins?
Bible program's going really, really well. We had a woman, and I wrote about this yesterday. We had this woman, she kind of sheepishly came into the bookstore. I was wrapping up the podcast in the back, and Lori went up to talk with her, and she just looks at Lori, and she looked unsure.
Yeah.
And she said, is this the place where somebody who can't afford a Bible can get a Bible? And she said, yes, it is. And we gave her a Ruckman Reference Bible, and she put it in her arms, she wrapped it around her arms, and she walked out of the front of the bookstore, her eyes moist. And I wrote about this yesterday. I think it's great that people think about Now the End Begins for cutting edge news of the end times. And I think it's great that as many people listen to our Bible studies as they do. But to be known as the place where people can get the Word of God at no charge, no strings, no gimmicks, no email marketing, and every single day. We get 2, 3, 4, 5 requests every single day of the year, on top of the Bibles Behind Bars free Bible program.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
thousands
amazing.
and thousands and thousands of Bibles to 25 jails and prisons just the first 3 months of the year.
And those are some of the darkest places on the face of this earth.
Yep.
And yet the scriptures say, the entrance of thy word giveth light.
That's right.
Very, very
That's
cool.
right. Yeah.
All right, well, we just wanted to catch up a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We're going to let him walk around a little bit, see some more stuff. We got some more interviews coming, but it's good to have our friend, Geoffrey.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Our monster buddies misunderstood. Sasquatch, watch out for Sasquatch. Sasquatch lives in the great Northwest. Sasquatch, Sasquatch.